was like during the Depression in that neighborhood?
Harlem was the poorest of the poor lived in Harlem, right? And when I say the poorest of the poor, I mean the poorest of the poor. And these people that barely can eat a living. And there was no such thing as going to your parents to, like the movies was 5 cents. To go see a movie. In those years, that was popular in the movies. And it was a nickel. And you can't go to your family and ask for a nickel because they don't have a nickel to give you.
Rudy, could I intervene?
Go ahead.
At that time, there was a lot of people on home relief and veteran relief. And there was a lot of push carts, people that sold produce and all that stuff.
Were the streets always crowded?
Yeah, because we lived in an area where there was a lot of shopping and stores were all there. The pastry stores, the delis. We had the Mount Carmel Feast, the church, in July 16th, a big feast. And they would make sandwiches and sausage, it'd be grilled and whatever, even Cheroni and cookies and pastries all over the place. That people came with buses from other areas.
I can see that this love was
When you were a young boy in that neighborhood, what did you do during the day?
Well, you're supposed to go to school, of course, you know that. Stickball, ring-a-livio, hopscotch.
And ball playing, baseball.
Well, baseball. Well, where mommy?
Stickball.
Not baseball. 'Cause we didn't have a baseball glove. We didn't have anything. So you find an old broom, you take the handle off the broom, and you get a ball, and then you play ball. And in the street, you got the home plate, the saw, and in the middle of the street there's a saw top. Saw top will be home, and then you make first base, second base, third base. But in those years, there was very few automobiles in the street. There was a lot of horse and wagons, but there weren't too many automobiles. So you could play stickball in the street, because there'd be once in a while a car would come down. There weren't, not many cars, and so we played stickball in the street.
Did you play with your brothers?
No. What my father said went. But when my father says, this is it, that's it, the story's ended. He had a cat of 9 tails. We had a dumbwaiter door, in those years, there was a dumbwaiter in the house. And he had it hanging on a dumbwaiter door. I remember it. And when he used it on you, man, believe me, you knew it. But however, my mother gave me a black eye. That's the only that's the only person who ever gave me a black eye in my life. And I must have been in hundreds of fights. It's the only time I got a black eye.
She just hold up and hit you?
She belted me.
All right, Dean, hit it.
I was 16 years old when I joined the carnival. I went out and they traveled mostly in Pennsylvania. Like Pottstown, I remember, several towns. And they find an open field and right away they put up the tents and everything. And I was like sort of a roustabout. And mostly I did was all these tents where they throw balls, they throw the dolls down. And another guy, another guy there was an ice cream truck, like a custard truck. And these guys got to be relieved every so often. They want to eat or whatever they had to do. And I would go in to fill in.
And this is basically what I did. It was an experience. There were several riots in those places because the gangs would come in and there'd be a lot of trouble. But I was all right. It was unexperienced, and I liked it. That was at the height of Depression. There was no money. You didn't get any allowance. You got no allowance, period. No such thing as getting a nickel. There was no such thing. These things were not done. Aside from stealing, that's the only other way to get it. Finally got cornflakes. Never had cornflakes in my life. I got cornflakes. My younger brothers had gotten it later.
And in the 1930s, about 1936, the government put out something called the Civilian Conservation Corps. It was run by the United States Army. So I, not being 18 to join it, I used my brother Sammy's name, who was 2 years older than I. I used his name, and I joined the CCCs. Now the CCCs is run by the United States Army. So when I went into the CCCs, I was subject to Army rules and regulations. I dressed the Army. Everything is Army, except I did not carry a rifle. But everything was Army. And that was a beautiful 6 months of my life. I was stationed in Avery, Idaho.
I liked it, food was good. I liked the idea of the mountains and the rivers and the swinging bridges and the animals in the forests. It was nice. I liked it very much. And I remember the first time I sat at a table in the CC camp, and in front of me was put a bowl of cereal, an orange juice, then you had bacon, and whoever had bacon and eggs, served to you that way. I never had that kind of stuff. The Board of Education took my father to court, I think. They wanted to know where was Ralph Euphemia. And then my father told him I was in CC camp. And they notified the company commander there. And I was called into the company commander's office. And he says, "What's your name?" I says, "Sandrino Euphemia." That's my brother's name. And he says, "What's your name?" I said, "Sandrino." Then I realized that something was up. So I says, "Ralph Euphemia." And he says, "Well, what'd you do?" I told him. I said, "Look, I was underage. I wanted to come to the CC camp. Couldn't get a job or anything." And he was a very understanding man, that captain. And he made me sit down, and I had to write a confession out on a piece of paper, exactly what story, and I turned it in to him. And they didn't send me home. They allowed me to finish my time.